I ignored God's voice for years, until everything I built came crashing down, and in the silence I finally heard him. Now I pray differently. Part 1. The Man Who Never Listened. Landon Reese was a man who didn't need saving. At least that's what he told himself. He had built his own life, brick by brick, mistake by mistake, never leaning on anyone but himself. Raised in a home where prayer was mocked and weakness was a sin, Landon learned early that vulnerability had no place in his world. By 35, he had it all: a high-paying job, a luxury apartment overlooking the city, and a phone full of numbers he didn't care to call twice. He lived fast, slept little, and worked harder than anyone else in his department. And he never listened. People warned him about his lifestyle, his doctor, his sister, even his ex-fiancée, who once whispered through tears, "There's no room for God in your world, Landon. And that's why there's no room for me." He remembered scoffing. "God," he said, "God doesn't pay my bills." And that was the end of it. But God wasn't done. One night after another 14-hour day, Landon stood by his floor-to-ceiling window, drink in hand, watching the city flicker beneath him. Everything he had worked for, right there. But it felt empty. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was deafening, like the kind that seeps into your soul and reminds you just how alone you are. Then came the moment he would never forget. His phone lit up, a number he didn't recognize. He almost ignored it, but something nudged him to answer. "Hello?" No response. Then a deep, unfamiliar voice spoke. "Landon, stop running." His heart slammed in his chest. "Who is this?" Silence. Then the call ended. He stared at the screen, trying to rationalize it. Prank, wrong number, stress. But deep down, he knew. It wasn't a joke. That voice had gone straight through him. For the next few days, nothing felt normal. He kept hearing echoes of those words. Stop running. He lost sleep, skipped meetings, felt like a stranger in his own skin. One night, he grabbed his keys and drove, with no direction. The city blurred past, and finally, he ended up in front of the old church his parents had dragged him to once as a kid. It was closed, dark, silent. He sat outside in his car, gripping the steering wheel. And for the first time in over 20 years, he whispered a prayer. "If that was you, God, say something again. Just don't leave me like this." He didn't expect a thunderclap or a sign in the sky, but he felt something warm, like the faintest presence. And he didn't move for over an hour, just sat there, listening, night prayer. When you're finally ready to listen. "God, I've spent my life ignoring you, mocking what I didn't understand, running so fast I never stopped to ask why I was running at all. But tonight, I'm tired. Not just tired in my body, tired in my soul. I don't know if you really spoke to me. I don't know if I deserve a second chance. But if you're real, and I'm starting to think you are, then speak again. Break through my pride. Break through my noise. Break through the silence. I don't want empty nights anymore. I don't want shallow victories or lifeless success. I want truth. I want you. Even if I don't know how to pray, this is me, trying. Don't let me miss you again. Amen." Part 2. The conversations he never wanted. Landon didn't tell anyone about the voice. Not his coworkers, not his sister, not even himself. Not really. He kept pretending it didn't happen. But something had shifted. He noticed things more. The hunger behind people's eyes, the desperation in busy streets, the sadness masked by small talk in elevators. And himself? He began to feel split in two. There was the Landon who went to work, ran reports, managed teams, shook hands. Then there was the Landon who, at night, sat awake in his apartment asking questions he had buried for years. Why am I here? What happens after all this ends? What if I've been wrong this whole time? One night he texted Rachel. She was his ex-fiancée, the one who'd left when he told her her faith was childish. "Landon, you still believe in God?" A few minutes passed. Then the reply, "Rachel, more than ever. Why?" He stared at the message, then typed and deleted a dozen responses. Finally, he sent, "Landon, I think he called me. This time the reply came fast. Rachel, he's been calling you for years. You just finally answered. Later that week, Landon stepped into a coffee shop to meet her. She hadn't changed much. Still calm, still kind, still steady. She didn't ask many questions. She didn't press. She just listened. And then quietly she pulled out a small book and handed it to him. A worn Bible. Start here, she said. Don't overthink it. Just listen. That night, Landon opened the Bible. It fell open to Psalm 51. He read where he's, "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me." Something cracked inside. It was as if David, the ancient king who wrote the psalm, had read Landon's soul. He closed the Bible, hands trembling. That night he didn't pray words, he just whispered, "Me too, God, me too." Night prayer, when you're learning to surrender. God, I don't know how to be holy. I don't know how to be soft, but I'm learning how to be honest. And tonight I need to be honest with you. I've lived like I didn't need you, built my life with walls so high I couldn't hear your voice. But even with all I had, I was still empty. Now I want more. Not more things, more of you. I'm tired of chasing silence, tired of pretending I'm not lost. So here I am. No grand words, no performance. Just a man asking for a clean heart. Start something new in me. Please don't give up on me. Teach me how to walk toward you, one step at a time. Amen. Part 3. When it all came crashing down, 3 weeks passed. Landon kept reading, kept asking, kept whispering small, uncertain prayers at night. He didn't become a different man overnight. He still cursed when angry, still ignored people sometimes, still didn't know what to say when someone mentioned God. But something was changing. He no longer mocked the quiet. He welcomed it. He started walking home instead of calling a ride, just so he could think. The more time he spent listening, the more he realized God had been whispering all along. But just as he began to soften, the storm hit. It was a Thursday morning when the email came. "We regret to inform you that due to internal restructuring," he read it twice, then 3 more times. He had been fired. No warning, no notice. Just gone. The next day his landlord called. The building was going condo. He had 2 months to move out. By the end of the week, his savings were bleeding. His carefully controlled life had begun to collapse like paper in the rain. He didn't call Rachel. He didn't tell his sister. He didn't even look at the Bible. He just sat on the kitchen floor, head in hands, whispering, "Why now? Why would you let this happen now?" For hours he didn't move. Until, out of habit or hunger, he reached for his phone and played one of the old voice notes he used to ignore. Rachel had sent it to him months ago, long before they met again. A soft-spoken prayer. When you feel like the walls are closing in, her voice said, God sees you. Even when everything is falling apart, He's not punishing you, He's pruning you. He doesn't waste pain. Don't run. Stay in the storm. Let Him rebuild what you never let Him touch before. Landon let the phone slide from his hand. And for the first time in his adult life, he truly cried. Not because he was weak, but because he was done. Done pretending. Done holding it all together. Done ignoring the one who had been calling him in every silence, every setback, every broken plan. That night he got down on the floor again, but not to question. This time, to surrender. Night prayer. When the storm feels personal. God, you've taken what I built. Not out of cruelty, but because you knew it wasn't going to last. I blamed you at first, but now I see you were doing what I refused to do. You were tearing down the walls I hid behind. You were shaking what I trusted more than you. You were pruning, not punishing. So tonight I won't run. Not this time. I'll stay in the storm if that's where you are. Break what needs to be broken. Rebuild what only you can rebuild. Change what I can't change alone. I don't want my old life back. I want the life you wrote for me, the one I never dared to ask for. Tonight I surrender. Amen. Part 4. The rebuilding. The morning after his breakdown, Landon woke up on the floor. His back ached. His head throbbed. But for the first time in years, his heart wasn't heavy with pride or noise. It was quiet. He sat at the edge of his bed and whispered, Okay, God, what now? No thunder, no miracle check in the mail, no knock on the door with answers, just stillness. And Landon had finally learned to stop fearing that silence, because now he knew it was in the silence that God did his most powerful work. The first thing he did was clean, not because he had guests coming, but because something about restoring order outside helped him see clearer inside. He boxed up old clothes, donated the books he never read, tossed out the last bottles of whiskey he once relied on to sleep. He found a Bible in the closet, one his mother had given him years ago, still sealed in plastic. He opened it for the first time, started in Psalms. "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Landon read that line aloud. Again. Then again. Tears streamed down his face. Not from sorrow, but something else. Hope. He didn't tell Rachel what happened right away. He didn't want to use her as a crutch. But when she called to check on him, she noticed it in his voice. "You sound lighter," she said. "I am," Landon said quietly. "I think I finally let go." They talked for an hour that night, not about the past, not about pain. They talked about God. Later that week, Landon applied for a few jobs. Not the high-paying, flashy roles he used to chase, but work that gave him peace. He took one at a local nonprofit. Less money, less pressure, but more meaning than anything he'd done in years. He came home from his first day, sat at his little kitchen table, and bowed his head. Not to ask, not to complain, just to thank. Night prayer. When peace starts to grow. God, for so long, I thought peace was something I could earn. A prize for fixing everything, doing everything right, staying strong. But now I know peace isn't earned. It's received. And I receive it tonight, in this quiet room, in this unfinished life. Thank you for not rushing me, for walking beside me when I had nothing to offer you but broken pieces. Thank you for starting over with me. Not because you had to, but because you wanted to. You love me too much to leave me where I was. So tonight, I won't fear the future. I'll walk into it holding your hand. Amen. Part 5, The Test. 3 months later, Landon was thriving, not in the way the world would notice, but in the way that heaven celebrates. He still lived in the small apartment, still walked to work at the nonprofit, still ended every day with a whispered prayer, but his heart was alive again. He felt it when he woke up. He felt it when he laughed. He felt it when he walked past places that used to tempt him and didn't flinch. But just as he settled into this peace, the test came. It was a Thursday afternoon when the email landed in his inbox. An old contact from the tech world. Big company, bigger paycheck. They had a new opening and wanted Landon. The salary was nearly triple what he earned now. The role would place him back in the spotlight. They even offered to fly him out that weekend. Everything in him paused. He opened the email again, read every line. It sounded perfect, on paper. But something didn't feel right. He prayed that night, "God, is this from you or just a shiny distraction?" The silence was different this time. Not empty, but full of clarity. He already knew the answer. He looked around his apartment, the chipped walls, the quiet shelves, the folded Bible on his nightstand, and he whispered, "This is where I found you. I won't trade it for anything, not even success." He wrote the reply, short, honest. "Thank you, but I'm not the man chasing that life anymore." He hit send. His chest tightened, not with fear, but with freedom. A week later, Landon was invited to speak at a recovery meeting. He stood in front of 20 men who reminded him of his old self. He didn't preach. He didn't quote 100 verses. He just told the truth. "I used to think God was silent, but really I was just too loud to hear him." One man cried, another nodded. And Landon knew this was his calling. Not riches, not fame, redemption. Final night prayer. When you choose God over everything else. "Father, you gave me back my life, but not in the way I expected. You didn't rebuild what I lost. You built something new, better, holy. I thank you for every no, every door you closed, every temptation you helped me walk away from. I don't want the world's version of success. I want your version of peace. So tonight I declare it boldly. I choose you over money, over praise, over comfort, over ego. I choose you again and again because you chose me when I had nothing, and you never stopped calling my name. Thank you for chasing me, for healing me, for loving me back to life. Amen.